Call the meeting to order at 6 o'clock. This is the 22nd meeting of the Design Review Board. I need a motion to approve the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
March 21st.
Comments? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Consideration of the minutes of the February 21st Design Review Board meeting. Are there any amendments?
Has me via Zoom, which I was for the first 5 minutes or so, but matters.
As you was coming in here at some point.
Yes,
Yeah, I think you were actually.
I was introduced.
A little sooner than that. I have a few nitpicky little things. Page 2 in the second paragraph. Mr. Sokolowski unpacked what occurred. The word unpack kind of didn't sit right with. Sure. Wasn't sure if that was the
Unloaded.
right word.
Very vernacular.
I like it.
Yeah. I thought maybe explained would be a better word.
Brought my luggage that evening.
That shows up a couple other places. And on page 5 of the last paragraph, bottom. Use visual ads. I think maybe it should be aids. I said nitpicky. On page 6 at the bottom, we're talking about the parking being limited to 2 spots. Should be like auxiliary parking or all that satellite parking.
Additional.
Because they still have the 2 spaces by the garage. I would just insert a word auxiliary parking. That would do it for me. Nope, one more. Page 8. Middle or just below the middle, Ramey asked if it was okay for them to proceed and return for the siting review next month. I think it's siting,
Siding, yeah.
yes, siting review. See that?
Oh,
Now I'm done. Anybody else?
Motion to approve the minutes as amended.
Second.
Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Okay. Public comment. This is a place for public comment on any items not related to our agenda. Is there anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment on a non-agenda item? Anybody on Zoom? No? Okay, let's continue to non-hearing items. The first of which is DRB 2405, Jen Dixon, applicant on behalf of Cannon Beach Library for a freestanding sign. Property located at 130 North. application will be a non-hearing item reviewed against the criteria of municipal code chapter 17.56 signs. Is there any additional correspondence? Is there a presentation by the applicant?
No, there is not. I had sent everything into you guys, so I didn't know if there'd got back to me if there was anything else we needed. Sorry, in the process of.
Excuse me, could you come up to the front and give us their name and address and
My name is Jen Dixon. I'm the library manager for the Cannon Beach Library. Our address is 131 North Hemlock Street. The application is for a freestanding sign that is in front of the library, west side facing Hemlock. There was a sign there previously. I had sent all the information in from our sign maker slash artist, who has a concept for a sign that's very similar to the design of the last sign. Many of you probably remember it was green with yellow lettering, and then on the bottom it has the sign labels for the various different books. And the new sign will will have those sign labels as well, but it will be made of all cedar, and it will be engraved. And the coloring on there is going to be all natural wood, and the with a little bit of stamp.
Can I just really quick correct that, that's not a mailing address, just that was her street address. So I just keep trying to like push that forward that
You need our mailing address?
That's- yeah.
Mailing address is PO Box 486. And it's gonna be a double facing sign. You can see it from both ways. Have any questions from the plans that we submitted or about operating? Sign labels?
Well, I commend the library for using cedar material and making your sign in the
Yeah.
context of historically what signs in Cannon Beach businesses have been made out of, the artistic tails and cedar. So thank you.
Thank you. And that was really what we were striving for. The previous sign was we had a complete makeover in 2018. And I don't know how many of you saw the sign when it was taken down about a year ago, but it had not weathered well. A lot of the paint was chipping off. And that sign had been previously done about like 5 years. So we were getting maybe 5 years of life out of the sign and before we had to find another artist and have it redone. So our hope for this sign is that it's going to weather really nice. The sign labels are detachable. So our, the idea is that, you know, maybe every 5 to 7 or 8 years, we'll have to take the spine labels off, but they, you know, just will unscrew and come off the security screws and, you know, redo those, restore those and then put it back up. Our intention is for this sign to last 20 to 25 years.
Beautiful.
yeah, it looks great. Exactly like what
Who's making the sign?
Roshan Koshi.
Roshan. yeah.
Wife Maria.
I'm gonna get a shout out. Yes.
And local, and they live here, so he has offered to come and clean up the sign and restain it and maintain it for us as we.
Right, it looks
you.
super classic, right?
Yeah.
I make a motion to approve the sign.
Well,
Well, we have to hear from you.
formalities.
I just want,
Is there
we have so many things on the agenda.
presentation by any?
Oh, sorry.
opponents?
Thank you, Jen.
Yay.
Or presentation by any opponents? Is there a staff response?
no?
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the sign?
Motion to approve the sign.
Second.
Any discussion? Those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed? Thank
Pretty
you.
exciting to be excited about a sign.
Okay, moving on, non-hearing item DRB 24-05. Finding Haystack Rock application for standing signage. property located at 1190 South Pacific Street. Application will be a non-hearing item reviewed against the criteria of the municipal code, chapter 17.56. Request the staff report. Sorry, I neglected to do that last time.
Oh, that's fine. Good afternoon. The applicant requests design review approval for the replacement of existing freestanding signage belonging to the Friends of Haystack Rock at the intersection of Ecola Court and West Gower Avenue, 1190 South Pacific Street. The property is owned by Stevens Investment Company and managed by Vesta Hospitality as part of the Wayfarer Restaurant and Surf Sand Resort property, which is located in the residential motel RM zone. And the proposed signage is intended to replace two existing interpretive panels that provided information about tide pools and local wildlife to both residents and visitors on a high-traffic beach access. And moving into the approval criteria, which are detailed in chapter 1756 of the municipal code. Regarding the general sign face area, the sign will consist of 3 panels that each measure 3 feet wide by 2 feet high with a total of 18 square feet, not including a support structure. The signage would be single-sided and faced westward toward Ecola Court. Moving into the height of the sign, application materials indicate that the sign panels and their support structure would have a maximum height above grade of 72 inches or 6 feet. Sign lettering, the maximum letter height will be less than 2 inches. The materials, the application indicates that the sign panels will be manufactured from a high-pressure laminate. The support structure will be recycled high-density polyurethane. Use of non-wooden sign panels is necessary because of the design of the panels, which consists of text, images, and artwork that would be impractical to produce on a wooden sign. Additionally, the replacement signage will be funded by a grant that allows the applicant to select from a catalog of pre-designed interpretive panels. This funding source does not provide for customization of design and materials. The replacement panels will be similar to the existing signage in terms of design and appearance. Exhibit C2 consists of photos of existing signage and shows that these panels are a non-wood product affixed to 2 pieces of plywood. The applicant proposes to use HDPE instead of wood for the support structure, as that is considered to be a more resilient material in a coastal environment. Exhibit B1 is a letter from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service recommending use of this material, as that agency has found that high-pressure treated wood requires frequent replacement in marine environments. Moving into the regulations for the base zone. The subject property has 3 frontages facing Ecola Court, Gower Street, and South Pacific Street respectively. The frontage along Ecola Court is 217 feet, which allows the maximum square footage for signage on that frontage to be 24 square feet. And regarding the regulations for the freestanding signs, the proposed signage would be the only signage on the Ecola Court frontage. There is a second freestanding sign for the Wayfarer Restaurant along the South Pacific Street frontage that is approximately 12 square feet. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you. Additional correspondence.
No, there's not.
Is there a presentation by the applicant?
No, there's not. Can you all hear me? This is Angela Benton.
Yes.
Oh, great. We don't have a presentation. I'm the board chair of Friends of Haystack Rock. Friends of Haystack Rock address is P.O. Box 1222, Cannon Beach, Oregon. And the only addition I would make to staff comments was we did consider cedar at that location, and after conversations of the sign structure with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and their experience with a corridor that's got a lot of salt, a lot of wind, and just a lot of rain, they recommended the HDPE material. It does have a wood grain texture, And so it is wood looking, but will last longer than cedar based on their experience. We are excited about these 3 panels. The 3 panels, as you may be able to see from the package, include information about tufted puffins, 1 panel about birds that occupy Haystack Rock, and 1 panel about intertidal. And we think that this is a terrific location for these panels, given that it is a very high traffic area, lots of folks coming on and off the beach. Thank you for considering.
Thank you. Okay. Is there any other presentation by proponents? Any presentation by opponents? Any further staff response? No. Okay. My question I had, looking at the material, is that it looks like the new installation will kind of block the bench.
It's definitely going to encroach on the bench, and there's also a pole there. You'll see page 1, exhibit 2, restroom direction sign and a no parking sign. And if it's 72 inches high, that's 6 feet, which I'm sure a 3-panel kiosk like that's going to be blocking the visual entrance to the beach. You know, and kids and people in wheelchairs. I'm not quite sure where the 6-foot height is coming.
It's our intent to ensure that the visibility of panels is ADA compliant. We'll be working with Enviro Signs. We need to make sure there's enough depth on the trunk of the panel or on the structure to ensure that they can be firmly mounted in concrete. We've been in conversation with the city about that. And so we can probably adjust the height of those to ensure they are ADA compliant. I don't have those numbers right in front of me to know what that sign level is, but we have had that conversation with Enviro Signs. And as for the bench, it will be a similar footprint to what the 2 signs are right now. It'll just be less open space because it is a 3-sided, and it will be close to the bench, but there will still be access to the bench. And those are adjustments we can make as we do the installation based on the brackets.
You're saying you could move the bench if you needed to? Is that what you're proposing?
Now, we would, and we've been talking to the city about this, when we put in the signs, when the signs are installed, we would make sure that the angle of the sign is adequate to ensure that the bench is accessible. We will not obstruct the access to the bench.
Anticipate pulling up all the brickwork around the signs that are currently there and redoing the whole landscape there?
Our goal
It
is,
seems like, yeah, you're gonna have to move quite a bit of the brickwork. I'm still having a hard time visualizing a kiosk right there that just seems like a screen.
well, you know, we have done the measurements and feel like that there's adequate space for that. In terms of the foundational work, it would be what the current interpretive signs are anchored in concrete. We would move have the concrete removed and replace that with concrete. So again, our goal would be to be as little disruptive to the current landscaping as possible.
I don't want to be the only one talking. This is going on.
Well, I think I have to go on record that the Friends of Haystack is the beneficiary of the festival I put on. So I don't know if I have to recuse myself or.
Totally up to you on that call and whether or not you believe it would impact your
I don't,
decision making.
I don't
But
think
if
it
you
would.
have any questions, you certainly can do that.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to say.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um,
Have any thoughts?
I just was curious, and I'm guessing this is a artifact of photocopying, but like interpretive panel number 2, whatever the text is to the right, can't be read because of contrast. I assume that that's not going to be an issue.
No, it shouldn't be. Sorry about the copy quality. These panels were produced with funds from the New Carissa oil spill over a decade ago. And they are the property of U.S. Fish and Wildlife, if you will, in the sense that they own the text and the design of those. And in fact, the 2 panels that are out there now that are over 10 years old are also New Carissa signs. They were some of the very early ones. So the new panels would be high quality, and in fact, U.S. Fish and Wildlife will be signing off on, we have some proposed changes to the language on the signs to make them a little more customized for the location. We've been working with Kelly Ennis of the Haystack Rock Awareness Program and U.S. Fish and Wildlife Visitor Services Representative Don Harris will have the final approval of any changes that we make to those signs to ensure both, good interpretive descriptions as well as accuracy for the coastal region. And we'll make sure you can read them very well.
Well, I'm not sure at this point that I could make any sort of recommendation for approval. I just have too many questions regarding obstructing views, encroachments, quality of the signs, the fact that, Cannon Beach has typically been a place that supports its own artists. Sally LaCappe comes to mind from some of the other interpretive signs around town, and so just to see some generic, although it might say Haystack Rock, is another kind of sticking point for me. But that's where I'm looking for some guidance here.
Well, I don't think we can
And
talk about the content of the sign.
I wasn't
Could I-
saying
could I
content.
Make one clarification on that. All of the signs that are on the interpretive panels, that the 2 that are there right now, as well as the 2 that are on the Haystack Rock approach, those are all New Carissa panels. And again, there's an inventory of these New Carissa panels that were designed 10 years ago. And those are the panels that we're proposing using. The artist actually was hired by Fish and Wildlife a decade ago to create an inventory of these. So there's many of these interpretive panels around town that were done by the same artists in that same period. Our modification of these will be language changes. Again, there's a couple, for example, Kelly, Haystack Rock Awareness Program, they wanted to highlight a couple different creatures in the tide pool and remove a couple that are, noted in the text. So those are the kinds of changes we're considering, but we're actually not hiring a new artist to do these. So we would be using Enviro Signs, who is the person or the company who's been doing these signs for U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for the last decade.
But you can customize it a little bit. That was what I thought I read, was that there was no customizing or specialized.
The language is what we'll be modifying.
Right, okay. I would leave that to the experts there, but still, I just don't know that a 3-panel kiosk is something that will work in that location. Just visually.
Seems to me more likely that just replacing the 2 existing signs with new panels would
That would be,
accomplish what you want.
I was trying to see what the
without
3rd panel,
Correcting anything.
yeah. That was the sea lions, I guess, was added.
I'm not clear on what the obstruction or the view issues.
Well, the sign, there's that post that you can see there. It has a restroom direction sign and a no parking sign, and at their 72-inch height that they're proposing now. I'm thinking that that's going to,
I'm sorry,
cover-
tell me where you're seeing that.
I'm on page,
Feeling.
yeah, I'm on page 1, exhibit C2. There's a post right here. And then just how close it's gonna be to the bench. I mean, it just doesn't seem very inviting for sitting on the
Well,
bench.
she's saying that it's taking up basically the same footprint. And I feel like these signs right now disappear. Like you barely see them when you walk by. And
Because they're kind of angled.
yeah, like you don't
You have
see
to be on
that.
top of them.
And she's saying that it's about the same footprint. So they're upright and ADA compliant, which is the city's trying to.
At 6 feet. I don't think that's ADA
No,
compliant.
she said that they're.
They'll work with
Yeah,
that, right?
yeah, that's,
Right.
I mean, I know that seems like that would not be wheelchair friendly, the ones that are there. And if it's the same footprint, I mean, I don't see a view that's missing other than the parking lot, like,
What is the dimension of a panel, of each panel?
3 by 2.
Right. 36 by 24 high.
I mean, I've walked by these 1,000 times before I even realized they were
Well,
there.
no wonder you don't see them anymore.
What?
You don't see them anymore. You've seen them so many times.
No, I just didn't see them the first few times.
Oh, I see.
And then I was like, oh, those are there.
Now,
I mean,
there's yeah, here it is. So it's 96 inches wide and 50 feet deep, and I'm not quite sure what the dimensions are currently of just the 2 signs, but I think this is
yes,
this is the 68-degree offset. But that's me, that's, like the bench is right there.
We've been out there multiple times measuring, just to make sure that they will fit into that footprint.
I don't think it's 50 feet, or it's 50 inches. Yeah, like, that'd be large.
Yeah.
I don't have objections.
I mean, this is a really sign heavy area anyhow, like, and then having interpretive, I think is important, but I'm also a fan, so.
Yeah, and
Do you want to go outside?
Maybe.
our proposed change, and part of the reason why we wanted to go with the kiosk was to make it more visible and striking as you approach the beach. There's so much information that HRAP gets asked, and when we're on the beach with them about what are the birds, what's in the tidal pool. And so we just felt like there was an opportunity here to make a little more of an impact as folks are approaching the beach. Because we've heard, similar to what Michelle has described, that what's there doesn't get noticed.
Well, I guess a 6'3" panel kiosk would certainly get noticed.
How about if you limit the height to say 5 feet instead of 6, that would,
Well, I just wonder what ADA, and I think about kids, people with their kids coming and.
their panels are 2 feet high. If the top is at 6, the bottom's at 4, which is probably too high for a wheelchair or small child.
Mhm.
Well, if we're assured that they're taking into account ADA requirements, I think what you're suggesting is probably going to come to pass.
Approve with, assuming that they would meet ADA requirements.
Right.
Are there ADA requirements for a sign
Look,
kiosk?
I Googled it, it looks like it's 60 inches.
I think we could approve the installation with that caveat.
Yeah, the materials are the materials are out of our specs, I think, but they're certainly a necessity for this kind of a display.
Yeah.
Yeah. This will take a log through it at some point.
Exactly.
We hope not.
Forget sand. Boulders.
I just joined the accessibility task force for the chamber yesterday, and I would maybe reach out to them too about the height requirements, reaching out to a lot of like making sure the town is wheelchair accessible and et cetera. So, I mean, the city probably knows, but I feel like they're doing a little bit more wider effort at the chamber with this new task force. So that, I mean, I don't know, I learned a lot yesterday from the presentation it's like, it's called something on wheels and it's, whatever. So, I don't know. I think it's having it more accessible for everyone is really important. And I mean, not like a high up leaned in panel for average height people that are able-bodied. So this makes sense to me.
Anybody care to venture a motion?
I would move to approve the sign as presented with the proviso that it be ADA compliant.
I would second that.
Any additional discussion? Those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Approved 4-1.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good luck. Okay. Continuation of DRB 04. BRB construction on behalf of Pulavana Sands condominium application for exterior decoration of existing building. Property at 160 East Law. Consists of multiple owners within a homeowners association and is a residential motel zone. Application will be criteria of municipal code, chapter 17.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the design review board to hear this matter at this time? Any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
I visit.
Site visit. The staff report.
Yes, this application was approved by Design Review Board during its February 2024 public hearing, subject to the two following conditions. One, that the applicant shall provide exterior color information for review and approval by the Design Review Board. And two, that the applicant shall include shake siding in the gable areas and provide plans for review and approval by the Design Review Board showing these modifications. The exhibits that have been submitted include plans showing the gables. And the applicant is here this evening with a couple of materials boards and appears to be prepared to discuss with the Design Review Board the materials proposed for use in the re-siding of the buildings.
That's it.
Yep.
Thank you. Is there any additional correspondence? Okay, public testimony, pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff report and listed in the criteria sheets. Testimony, arguments, and evidence will be directed toward that criteria. failure to raise an issue accompanied by statements of evidence sufficient to afford the decision maker or parties an opportunity to respond precludes appeal. Prior to conclusion of initial evidentiary hearing, any participant may request an opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. Design Review Board will grant such requests by continuing the public hearing or leaving the record open for additional testimony, arguments, or evidence. Persons who testify shall first receive recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify whom they represented. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Evening. My name is Ryan Mullen and I represent WRV Construction. The address is 12705 Southwest Herman Road in Tualatin, Oregon. I also am speaking on behalf of the owners of the Colorado Sands condominiums. So. We were sorry for being not having everything that you were wanting to see last time. It was the first time I've been through one of these processes, so hopefully I did a lot better for you guys and really appreciate it. It's daunting if you've never been through it, kind of. But so hopefully I've gotten everything that you guys need. I really appreciate your guys's willingness to work with us. That was really awesome of you guys. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look through all of the packet or if you want to go over any of it. I'm happy to answer any questions. I just wanted to bring in an actual tangible representation of what it looks like because things can get lost in the rendering. So I wanted to kind of bring something in. So I'll lug it over here. It's pretty. Didn't think it'd be this heavy when I built it.
Right, on the job injury.
Might have a workman's comp case.
Yeah.
Gosh.
All right, here we go. So this would be the color, the body color and the trim color. They're noted in the design pack that we submitted to you. This color is called Gauntlet Gray and this color is, I think it's ultra white or pure white. I have to look back at it. And so that's the basic, those are the colors. This is an example of the shake board that we were gonna put in the gables. So that's basically it. The owners wanted me to bring an additional color just to give you guys a second option and to give them a second option to kind of see what everybody thought looked the best. So I'm gonna set this off for a second. And I can let you guys check this out a little bit if you guys want to look at the grain pattern or anything on this, but this is what the product actually looks like. So this is, I don't know if this will be a good representation of what the two colors, the difference in the colors would look like for the grays. But this was the main proposed color and this was just a secondary option. Okay.
So that would be in the gables?
No, they want the same color to be in the body and the gables. They want the texture to be what kind of delineates everything. They were giving this as an option for the body color because they're leaning this way, but they still want to just consider.
I feel like that would be better for the trim.
Yeah.
That bright, like,
That might look really cool too. I mean, but this is what we've come up with. So,
Okay,
okay.
well, I want to commend you on your much better presentation.
Hey, man, I take advice and I try to apply it.
Yeah.
So I also put together a material data product information. If you guys have any questions specifically about the product, so you can see everything about them. And I do have some little physical samples, if anybody wants to look at any of them. So I'm surprised that it's actually pretty close. I think the thing that makes it look so different is the sheen of the paint. It's kind of more reflective in the light, so.
Well, I'm willing to accept whatever colors the owners are happy with. I don't feel that I need to nitpick any
Okay.
shades of.
Specific shades.
Yeah, you know, whatever.
It's gonna be gray. The roof shingles are charcoal, which is gray, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not stoked on the white, but whatever. It's not, I don't have to live there.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Good.
Thank you.
Any other presentations by opponents? Any presentations by opponents? Any further staff response?
No, I think it was just so everyone recalls, they had the ability to move forward and do a little bit of the work. I think to get some of the tieback. We're working on some of the stuff, and the applicants, I thought, provided the information that we requested, and we didn't have any objections to what was being recommended to you guys.
I stopped by there a couple days ago and they've gone a lot further than that. They've got most of the siding up.
Yeah.
And the
Siding is up already?
Yeah,
What color did they choose?
well, it's primed. They haven't painted it.
But no siding in the gables.
Hmm.
No siding is up in the gables.
Mhm.
No siding was installed.
The gables.
Right, yeah. Gables were still unsided. And the foreman or whoever he was, superintendent, said he had just ordered the shingles for the gables without getting it approved first. But he's very hospitable. we'll say. Okay. Any motion to approve the site plan? There's really no site plan. Motion to approve the architectural design.
I so move.
Second.
Discussion. Those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion to approve landscape design. There really wasn't any landscape.
Yeah, just architecture on that one.
I guess we're done.
Guys,
Thank you.
Thank you.
have a good evening.
Be careful.
To disturb you.
Don't forget you. Oh, yeah, you're good. That's right.
See yours?
Nope.
There it is.
Okay. Public hearing and consideration of DRB 24-06. This is a quasi judicial hearing regarding DRB 2406. They visit applicant on behalf of Cannon Beach Conference Center for exterior alterations to existing structure and landscaping changes. Property located at 289 North Spruce Street in a residential motel zone. Application will be reviewed against criteria of municipal code chapter 17.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the design review board to hear this matter at this time? Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias. Any commission member had any ex parte contact or made a site visit? Made a site visit. Request the staff report.
Thank you. The proposed project consists of making structural modifications to the Haven building of the Cannon Beach Conference Center. First upgrade involves the office/registration entry. This will include exchanging the location of doors and windows serving this space, adding a gabled roof extension, and adding new accent shingle siding around the new entry doors. The second upgrade will consist of improvements to the coach house coffee area and its sunroom. This work will be limited to improvements to doors and windows in that area. Additional work such as interior and electrical upgrades will also be part of the project. There are no changes to the overall site plan or landscaping, and these criteria have been omitted from the review. Moving into 1744-090, the architectural design evaluation criteria, the staff comment is that no changes to the overall shape, form, and color of the Haven building are proposed as part of this project. The proposed improvements are intended to allow the conference center staff and visitors to more efficiently use the existing space. As the subject building is not immediately adjacent to many properties not owned by the conference center, no impacts to other property owners or the city at large are anticipated as part of this proposal. And that concludes the staff report.
Thank you, Robert. Any additional correspondence?
No.
Call for public testimony. Pertinent criteria to be considered are noted in the staff report, listed in the criteria sheet. Testimony must be directed toward that criteria. Failure to raise an issue includes appeal based on that issue. Any participant may request the opportunity to present additional testimony, arguments, or evidence regarding the application. Persons who testify will first receive recognition from the chair, state their full name and mailing address, and if appearing as a representative, identify who they represent. Is there a presentation by the applicant?
Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good evening. My name is David Bissett, architect, and my address is 4788 Sheridan Drive, Gearhart, Oregon, 97138. And I'm the architect in charge of the project, acting on the behalf of Cannon Beach Conference Center. I hope that, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person. Normally that's the way I like to do it, but I'm out of town working and just couldn't be there tonight. But thank you for the opportunity. I hope that the application is simple and well presented. It's very, very simple. There's two areas of the existing Haven building, which is kind of the main administrative building, that the Cannon Beach Conference Center would like to upgrade and make more functional and be more aesthetically pleasing. And so the entry canopy, as we're calling it, the little gable roof and the posts and some shingle accent, and changing out some doors and windows, is intended to kind of clean up that front presentation, we'll call it. People that park there, that come into the office to register or check in, go through this area. And we felt that if we were to add a set of doors and kind of change out a window and door, that would make it more user-friendly, would also make it more aesthetically pleasing to see and more visually identifiable. So it's a very simple gable I guess, gable porch attachment to the existing covered walkway that's already there. We're trying to keep all the materials and colors and stuff both complementary and compatible with what currently is the theme of the conference center, and yet we're trying to provide a little bit more detail. So that's the number one mini project, I'll call it. Number two is they have a informal eating area that is called the Coach House, and it has this little sunroom kind of space on one side, and we're wanting to put in some nice French doors in place of the windows, which will add a little bit more light and sun. The terrace area that is there, I believe there was a subsequent drawing that was sent because we have been reviewing the trees out in front of that area with an arborist, and so we pulled that part out of the out of the application. So I don't believe this drawing that you're looking at with where it says new terrace, I don't believe that that's the most current one, but I could be mistaken. But I thought we had resubmitted something that did not show that and showed that the existing trees would remain, that the existing landscape would remain. So essentially for this application, we were taking any landscaping proposal out of it, and any tree removal was being removed from this application. So you can see that there's a little walkway. You can see that there's a nice little planting bed there. And so that in this application, that would be retained. And if I'd be happy to provide a corrected drawing for everybody, but if you can just imagine the photograph that shows image A and B there shows the existing landscaping, and if you can work with us to know that that is going to remain at this point, that's what's in this application. So I think that's about all I should say, unless there are questions. Happy to answer anything that you have.
Okay, looking at the photo, image B, just looks to me like if you put in the French doors you're talking about, they're gonna go right into that mound of landscaping. So they're not really compatible with each other.
Mhm.
Not sure why you would put the French doors if you're leaving the landscaping.
Well, our intent, it was a bit of a timing thing. We had the arborist report, and we thought that we would be able to present the terrace, but that didn't happen in the time frame. The conference center is attempting to try to work this remodeling, in the time frame that helps them not be totally disrupted during, kind of the peak conferencing time. So we edited or limited the proposal to what we thought would be easier for you folks to review and hopefully approve. I believe it is our intent to come back at some point. But I would say that even without having a new terrace or patio or deck, whatever you want to think of it out there, it still would be very desirable to have the sense or the feeling that the sunroom area opens up to that landscape area. So that's the intent, and that's the reason that we want to put the doors in.
maybe continue this for,
Ask a question real quick.
yes.
This is to the architect. With those commercial doors and adding that in there with, really no sidewalk, isn't there any type of sort of ADA requirements or things of that nature that you would be required to have X amount of space in order to have these commercial doors open up onto, some type of access?
Yeah, it's not really intended to be access. The access is, occurs, there's on the floor plan, you'll see a 12CH. That's the actual access to that area. This is, more if you can imagine, like, if you were sitting in a sidewalk cafe and you had the ability to look out, it's not necessarily for direct access, although it would allow that. The answer to your question is we would lift the grade a little bit there, just where it abuts the building, which would take care of the ADA thing. There is enough clearance from the face of the building to the trees that when the doors are in the open position, we probably would not have a problem with the clearance. Did I answer that question for you?
So,
Yeah, I think you answered that. I just get worried about our building inspector having this conversation with you and then saying, hey, if this was patio doors, I would understand it. I just wonder that the actual opening of the doors themselves and the width of the area in there, if you don't have enough, you're definitely doing something to the landscaping.
Yeah, the doors are 3-foot wide panels, so the swing on the door, opening out is for weatherization and the ability to be able to fold those doors flat back against the wall and not use up interior space. So that's the reason we're swinging them out. The trees are out, far enough. I think the closest one is about 6 feet. And so, there is clearance between the building and the trees to allow us to flush out the grade right up against the building. We wouldn't be changing the part where the essentially the berm or the trees are. We would just be flushing it out so that you didn't have a trip hazard or an ADA situation. But we can qualify this to say that it has to be ADA compliant. There's no question about that.
Is it your intention to build this patio area at some point?
If we can, I think the long answer to that is yes. We think that something out in this area would be attractive and usable and provide a nice outdoor gathering space. The short answer is we're not ready to present or to propose that, so we want the project to be able to move forward and stand kind of on its own merits without a new terrace or patio. We don't think that it's essential to being able to enhance this area, but down the road, we want to be able to consider that, and we would want to come back to you folks to talk about that if that was the case.
so at this point, you almost consider those doors to be big opening windows.
Yeah, and I think that, I'm trying to think of it from your vantage point too. I think that if you felt like it needed to be a condition of approval that we not operate those doors, and that they essentially are fixed doors acting as windows, we would still want to make this change. We think the aesthetic and the, extra light and so forth would be desirable. So,
The doors are drawn with crash bars on them, are they not?
Well, they're not in the sense of a panic bar.
What kind of a
there
bar
has-
is it if not a panic?
Well, there has to be a protective push bar. And even if the doors are simply as windows, I'm pretty sure we would have to have a chair rail or something there. I'm not trying to complicate this. I'm just trying to appease any concern about, opening doors and so forth.
I'm just looking at image B,
Mm-hmm.
which looks to me like there is a little bit of a concrete stem wall there or something of maybe 10 inches. And if an approval from us leads to a building permit, I don't see how the building department would permit this with doors opening not to grade, but Steve, talk.
Yeah. I think the big thing here is with the doors, I don't know that we would necessarily want to do a condition of approval of the doors like the applicant's suggesting, because this is a building code type issue. It either meets it or it doesn't. So I don't necessarily have a real issue potentially approving this because, and it's up to you guys, but because it still would have to go to Alton, our building inspector, to make sure that there's access available that meets the ADA requirements. And if it doesn't, it can't move forward.
Exactly. I'm not trying to kick the can down the road. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to accommodate a couple of things. One, that we're able to move forward with some changes that are desired and needed. And at the same time, address any concerns, but you're absolutely right that, we've got to comply, in order for it to be signed off for building permit.
So from that perspective, it may, they're talking about the site and the landscaping. Yeah, it might say something about the landscaping here, but it doesn't sound that they're moving forward with that. But if they would have to come back anyways to address any type of change there. So I think what we're looking at is strictly the aspect of the changes to the building with the doors. And, overall, obviously this is the board's decision. I think everything's okay. And I think we would be good because when they would submit this, like we talked about, these things would have to be addressed by Alton. Otherwise the permit wouldn't be issued for it to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, and I don't know, David, if you can explain this, but when you look at like image A and you look down the line, it does look like there is, I don't know what that width, I don't know if anyone has any idea what that width might be, but it looks like there's, the sidewalk that goes along the building and then curves around the tree right by the stairs. So it does look like there's, existing access in there, but I just don't know the width and things like that.
No, you're correct. That's why I was saying that with the swing of the doors, which is about a 3-foot wide panel, and then they're in pairs. I believe the closest tree is closer to 6 feet away from the wall, 5 to 6 feet. So there is clearance along that entire edge. And so I'm confident that we can, that we'll have to meet any kind of, building regulations, which would include ADA and thresholds or any of that kind of thing. And absolutely, we would be coming back to the board, but we didn't want to see a situation where this couldn't go forward on its own merits without landscaping changes. But we realize that if we do propose any different change out there, that we would be back to talk to you folks again.
So would it be a new application for the landscaping?
Yes.
Okay.
Oftentimes, I'm assuming just like, architects explain, and maybe from a timing perspective, it's not quite working out the way they anticipated, and they probably wanted to do it all at one time. But if they can't do that, they would like to move forward with this, and then they would have to come back at a later date to address that.
But it just, I'm sorry, I'm in a chicken or egg kind of thing. Why would Alton approve the building permit if there was not hardscape that corresponded to that 10-inch or so rise?
That's my point. I mean, he's gonna have,
So, I mean, it just seems incomplete. It's not, like if this application were to do this terrace, we could talk about that. But the application is allegedly not to do the terrace.
I think there's enough room there. It looks like there's sidewalk already going past the windows in this spot.
Sure, but I mean, it looks like it's down 10 inches.
Right, but the doors will, and that's just it. They'll have to meet the rise and, the tread and the rise of, any type of building code there. So, I guess, Dave, what are your, thoughts on that? Who knows? Do you have any idea what that actual exposure is and how the doors, how far they're coming down to the sidewalk, and is this an issue or not?
I think it is not an issue in the sense that there is about a 10-inch, you're right, it's about a 10-inch drop. And again, if we go out there and, level that edge, it's either going to be an acceptable step, or it's because we don't have to rely, ADA, as you know, includes both wheelchair and non-wheelchair situations. So we've got wheelchair ADA covered by the existing access covered walkway and entrance in and out of this area. So we don't have to have a completely flush condition there. But any step, or if we were to raise the grade right along that edge, that would be, I think the solution is either raise it 10 inches or provide, say, a 7.5-inch riser step and finish grade along that to be able to have a step there. Either way, we can meet ADA because steps are allowed when you have another location to get wheelchairs in and out.
And I think the concern is, as part of that grade, and this is the question, is in order to meet that, are you going to have to move into that landscape area? Correct.
Yeah, no, between the tree and the wall is where we would be talking. Again, you appropriately mentioned that image A kind of shows that space, we'll call it, between the tree and the wall. And so that's the area that we're talking about, approximately 5 to 6 feet.
I just know for sure that you cannot open a door and step down. You have to have a landing outside of a door and then a step down.
Mm-hmm.
So it's incomplete. We don't know what that landing is. Alton can't approve it. I don't
know, because I guess I don't know the building code and what.
I know, I do know that at least.
Okay, all right.
You cannot, and please argue with me if I'm wrong, David, but I think you cannot have an egress situation where you step down.
Well, you're correct. The difference is, and again, I was hoping we, I apologize that that we're having to get in the weeds a little bit on this. These are not required egress doors, but we don't have to have them for egress. So I think that the way I would be leaning would be to lift the finished grade up against the building, that 10 inches or so, just along the edge of the building, so that we're not impacting. And it could be, it could be as simple as gravel, it could be bark dust, it could be concrete. But I don't want to, I don't want to confuse it, other than I do understand the question and the need for compliance. But we were hoping this could be complete in its application on its own merits without a new terrace at this time.
Since there's no real access to those doors shown at all, it seems like what we're seeing is incomplete.
Well, it's the existing condition. I just was hoping to kind of only have to address the 10 inches of elevation change. I think that, you know, if this is too much of a stretch, we would like, I think, the opportunity to not have the whole thing denied, but perhaps this portion of it, we could table it, I guess, until I could come back and, you know, make the full request and resolve the issue of whether there's a new terrace or not, whether any trees are going to be requested to be removed or not. If the review board would feel more comfortable, you know, essentially doing a continuance on this, I guess that would be, you know, what we'd have to do. We certainly would like to move ahead with any part of this that we could. Since the board only meets once a month, it was our intention to come back probably before this thing gets rolling. It's just that you can imagine things like the lead time for these kind of doors and stuff can be months. And we just are trying to do something nice, something that we think is adding value to the aesthetics of the building and the function of the building, and work within the timeframes that are kind of in front of us. And I know it's not ideal. We would like to have done this a little different, but we didn't want to miss this window. And like I say, if the board felt that they could approve it or approve part of it, you know, we'll be happy to come back and finalize anything that needs to be finalized.
What is the project other than exchanging doors for windows?
Well, yeah, was that a question for me?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, there are some interior changes. There's a note 3C. There's some existing openings that have some non-structural wall elements that we're trying to remove on the interior. And so what the whole goal is to kind of refurbish the coach house interiors and make this space more open, light, airy, and friendly. And so
Let me ask it a different way. From the perspective of design review, which doesn't care what you do inside the building, what is the alteration if not swapping doors for windows?
That's essentially it. Down at the I guess it would be the southeast corner, and you can see this in a little bit on the edge of image B. There's a little bit of a recess there, and what that is the building was kind of notched in, and so what we are showing is that we're going to square off that corner and add a window. That's what that's about. On the other end, where the note 12C is, that is an existing door that we're going to replace the door, but it's the same opening and it's the same function and it would not change. So I guess the direct answer to your question, other than what I've just mentioned, that's essentially what's happening here.
Can I make a comment too? Glenn Miller from Cannon Beach Conference Center, I'm the maintenance manager. The other part that we're looking at that hasn't been brought up, we've concentrated a lot on the coach house part, but the other part that we're talking about is the other side of the building where the entrance is. Can we get that part approved if the coach house part isn't approved, so we can start working the construction on those pieces as well? That, I think that's the other part of, can we do a partial, if we can't do the entire thing, can we do a partial of that front part, get working on that while David works on some of these questions that you have on the backside?
I was going to propose something along that line anyway, is that?
Yeah, I think one of the things that we could do is, if everyone's comfortable, is that there's the the sheet 821, which is the Haven Build Drain entry upgrades. If everyone's okay with that, I don't see why there would be any issue in terms of approving that, and then just continuing the matter on the Haven Building Coffee House, which is the ones with the doors we're talking about. This way they could move forward on the other, yet come back to clarify the other section, if the board would want to work with them from that perspective.
Are they changing the color of the doors? Yeah.
Yes, the doors right now are red and have that solid panel at the bottom. The proposal is that we move to a factory white French door that would have all glass.
Okay.
Still a residential look. I think I provided some Milgard mix that we're looking at, and it comes in a factory white that would match the trim. It would they're fiberglass, so you don't have the problem with the warpage, and it's the type of door that we're using on almost all commercial and residential work on the coast.
I'm looking at A22 plan view, existing coach house, and below that, I believe, are the dimensions. Do you know the fire rating of that room? I mean, it's just hard for me to believe those doors. Maybe when it was built, those doors are not necessarily necessary for egress, but where is your egress otherwise? I see two doors.
Yeah, that the two doors that are existing, that is our egress. I mean, the occupant load of this space is not that high. I mean, I'll run the numbers on it, but and again, if that's what I was trying to allude to before, and I apologize for jumping around here, but that's what I was alluding to before, is that we can resolve this thing about the door and the threshold and the access, and it may be that we'll want to use those doors as egress doors by definition, but my understanding at this point is that they're not required to be egress.
So the discussion is perhaps approve the modifications that are on A21.
Right.
I don't have a problem with that.
And
A22, there's
continue
a whole lot of contradictions there.
continue the coach house portion to next month for a more complete presentation. I have a motion to that effect.
I would move to approve the application as presented on sheet A2.1 only, and continue the A2.2 alterations to a future meeting.
Based on
Second.
what? We need to put it in the record why we're moving it to continuation.
Well,
Incomplete.
waiting for a complete package.
Yeah, I mean,
And-
I just, I'm looking at that 10-inch drop and going, you know, I understand he's trying to finesse it and get going,
Oh,
but the
sure.
thing is not complete.
It needs to also have,
That's what we need to be clear in what we need him to
Yep.
bring back. So that's what we're looking at. The egress, the building code inspection, is that something?
Yeah, and I can talk to them and David, I think you understand where this discussion's going and understand what is gonna need to be brought forward, and I can continue to work with the applicant prior to the resubmittal.
Yes, absolutely. I appreciate your understanding and working with us on this. It wasn't
Please do.
ideal timing, but
Do we want
No, I
landscaping
totally
included in that, or does that matter?
needs to have a
Well, he's
landscaping,
gonna encroach on the landscaping, so yes.
needs to have a landscaping design included.
If they're touching it,
If it needs to be
it modified
as of,
as part of that, yeah, right.
Those doors.
Well, there may be enough space.
You could conceivably just put a sidewalk across there and right up close to the landscaping.
Right. And so we don't know that. And if they have to modify that in order to go into that landscape area to meet the code, then they definitely would need to have it.
Okay,
understood.
Did second motion? Is there a motion complete? Okay.
motion is to
well, can
approve
Tessa read
the,
the motion back that's? Yes. If we can condense it to.
Approve A2.1 and postpone A2.2.
Continue.
Continue, yep.
With information from the building.
Yeah, it would be one of those ones that the applicant will resubmit and we can, in the meantime, verify that hopefully with our building inspector to give some additional input when it comes back.
A second.
any further,
Thing today, seconding.
okay. A motion to approve the architectural design for 2.1. Those in favor?
Hi.
Yes.
Any opposed? You,
Right, so that's how it got approved, as you requested, and we'll continue to work with one another for the resubmittal for a meeting when you guys are ready to come back.
Great. Thank you very much. I appreciate all your help and support on this.
Yeah, how about a break?
how about a break? Yes, I think an official break is.
Okay.
We had mine. Okay. Public hearing, consideration of DRB 24-07. CIDA Incorporated applicant on behalf of the city of Cannon Beach for a new city hall building. Property located at 163 East Gower Street. The application will be reviewed against the criteria of Municipal Code Chapter 17.44. Does anyone object to the jurisdiction of the Design Review Board to hear this matter at this time?
Yeah, yes, I do.
Okay,
And I hereby submit that the Design Review Board is compelled to take an advisory role only in this filing. The DRB exists at the discretion of the city council. The city council is the de facto applicant here. It would be a conflict of interest for DRB to enter into a quasi judicial hearing on this matter. And secondly, the DRB's primary task is to be the only public body reviewing projects. And in the case of city projects, DRB's sponsor, the city council, has assumed that role and thoroughly reviewed the project. So I would move that we waive jurisdiction in the case of city projects and assume only an advisory role. As good of advisory role as we could.
A second.
All right, well, that's interesting. I'm glad the attorney's on this evening. So I would turn it on over to Bill to hear what he might have to say with regards to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's an interesting concept, and I certainly hear what you're saying, and certainly if the DRB felt like they could not make a decision, they could do that. But you know, the Oregon case law is fairly clear that the city must still comply with its codes, and you know, it has two different roles in any project. One is as a proprietary, you know, as in it owns a property like any other property owner, can do what it wants to do subject to regulation. And the city is also the regulatory body. It regulates and puts out codes. The DRB tonight is acting in its role in the city, and tonight in every meeting is acting in the regulatory capacity. And it's a little odd to think of the city regulating itself, but that's what it does. And it is provided for the DRB to have the authority to review the design review code and make a decision for it. So I do think the DRB has jurisdiction. As I mentioned when I started out, if the DRB were to choose not to exercise jurisdiction, that would be an interesting conundrum about what that meant. If you weren't to exercise jurisdiction, there wouldn't be an approval, and there wouldn't be, I guess it just gets into some interesting questions. To the extent you feel uncomfortable making a decision about it and believe that you should defer to what the city council is essentially designed, one thing, and you should act more in an advisory role, one thing you could do is approve the application that's in front of you with advice to go along with it. Happy to answer questions or discuss. This is the first time I've really run across this issue. So, you know, if you want to talk it out, let's do that. But I do think you have jurisdiction.
But yes, we do have jurisdiction, but may we waive jurisdiction?
I believe you have to make a decision. I don't think you could choose not to decide, not to quote a rock band, but you could, if you were of the mind that you want to waive jurisdiction, what I would recommend would be that you approve the application and make whatever comments you might like in your role as an advisory committee.
So approve the application now. On the face of it.
You could take, you know, you could take that role, take that position that, you know, we're going to you know, essentially defer to the city council's determination what the design looks like. And if you were to do that, I would recommend that you approve the application as it's submitted.
Okay. Well, what we wind up with is otherwise is a charade. Because the city ultimately, a city council also is fully capable of overruling this body. And so,
That's correct.
and what we hear from them on other matters is that, well, they considered all that our objections have already been covered. And so it puts them in a difficult position as well.
I hear what you're saying, and nevertheless, here we are. You are on the design review board, and you do have authority that has been delegated to you by the city council.
So there is a motion on the floor and it's been seconded. It sounds like you would either have to withdraw that motion.
Or we vote.
Well, he was saying that that's not a legal motion though either.
Well,
because
I mean, it's a legal motion. It just might be a conundrum for the city. It might be counterproductive.
It's already a conundrum.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with
It would make a conundrum worse.
two previous projects that we have
We're gonna do what
reviewed
they want anyhow.
from the city, the restrooms at Midtown and Cannon Beach Elementary. Whatever we have come up with has been soundly overruled by the city council and painted us as being evil. Almost.
I don't know about evil, but not respected.
Yeah.
And
So, yeah, so we put the, if we, anything we turn down as far as their application, we put the city council in an awkward position.
And ourselves.
And ourselves, yes. And we would, my suggestion is that we provide the very best advice we can get, but not rule.
I agree.
I'm concerned that that throws a monkey wrench to things. I mean, I totally get where
I
you're
know
coming
I
from.
know what you mean, but some cities don't even have design review boards in the state of Oregon.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
we
so-
do.
Do we really need to put ourselves and the city council blind? And do we need to, the public becomes really confused. And it seems like it would be better to keep it right in the hands of the city council.
I think the advice is you approve your motion, we accept a jurisdiction, didn't object to the jurisdiction. Then there could be a motion to approve. And that could be that.
With what is it? The word that we use.
The caveats.
Yeah, with conditions. Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. Oh,
See, that's where, I don't know about setting conditions for CETA or city council, and that's where I thought it was kind of a good compromise for us to go into more of an advisory, that, well, this is what we think. We're going to approve your application and your design. This is staff and council's building. But maybe some considerations for design.
But that absolutely can happen, could happen.
If we approve it, then the public is going to note that we rubber stamped it.
that's fine.
Well, I think council worked hard at trying to get it to a place that we would just say approve.
They do, yes, they work at it really hard,
So,
trying to figure out.
My suggestion would be at this point that we go through this thing and see if there's any hard points that,
But it's gonna be the same thing.
Will be.
It's gonna be the same thing.
There will be.
Heads against the wall, continuing, and then it'll be appealed, and then we'll hear how, well, where DRB maybe got it right. And I don't want to go through that, and I don't think anybody else wants to go through that. And I
don't see how why we cannot waive jurisdiction. I have a hard time seeing legally why the design review board, given our authority, cannot waive jurisdiction in a matter where we already have a public body very carefully going over it. And, the city council has spent months on this, many meetings. We already have a public body doing a good job.
I guess two thoughts. One is that you are appointed to this board for your expertise in certain areas. Whether the city council agrees with where you end up with it, that's, part of the give and play of the political process. But, you have been given a role on this board, and that is to review, the things that come before you. The more practical piece of it is that if you waive jurisdiction and make no decision, then it sort of leaves this application in limbo. And so, if there's not an approval or denial, there's nothing that gets it to the city council if somebody wants to get it to the city council. And trying to figure out a way to let the process move forward is sort of where the recommendation for making a decision comes from as well.
So the city council can't just accept our waiving and move forward?
Yeah, as I said, this is the first time I've run into this, but my initial take is that what you have authority to make this design review decision. If nobody appeals it, your decision is final. Right? And so if you don't make a decision, the only way it gets to the city council is if someone appeals it. You don't make a decision, I'm scratching my head how it gets to the council.
It gets to the council by the city council appealing to themselves.
Appealing what?
Effectively, if any of our findings, they appeal it to themselves. Their agent appeals it for them.
I get that, but you're not making any findings. You're saying, hands off, we can't touch it.
How would planning handle the permitting process if a DRB approval was required and yet that didn't happen?
It's a good question. That's why I'm not the attorneys here. Typically what would happen is with a lot of other applications, there's the 120-day notice that kind of makes sure that communities make decisions, land use decisions within a 120-day period.
Time out.
We don't want to do that.
Right, it would time out in essence. That's correct.
That doesn't sound good.
Right. Because we still have to wait the 3 or 4 months for that to happen.
I also make a note that Harvey just handed us all right before we started this.
I didn't get it.
Handed us papers saying
Okay.
that, I don't know if you guys got one.
No, I was.
Like,
We both need one.
but yeah, I kind of figured, like, yeah,
Yeah, thank
I
you.
mean.
Harvey, I totally get where you're coming from, but I suggest you withdraw that and either we proceed pro forma or we just make a motion to approve and go.
Motion to approve to you.
Okay.
Okay. Would the rest of you like me to withdraw or shall we vote?
I feel like, maybe withdrawal. I think maybe he's correct.
I hereby withdraw my motion.
Okay,
And do you also withdraw your objection to jurisdiction? Because that's on the record.
No, I object to that,
Okay,
but that's, yeah, I object.
that's you, take that one to the bank.
Did we just make a motion to approve then without?
So I guess the next step would be you have an objection to jurisdiction and, you make a decision. Does the rest of the commission believe you have some sort of jurisdiction? If you do, then you make that, I guess.
I will also withdraw my objection to jurisdiction.
okay. So. Proceed with the hearing.
Or are we?
Thank you.
We have a public hearing. Wait. Proceed.
My suggestion when you get to that point is I'd ask the applicant, if I'm the applicant, I would say I would hope that you would approve the project and then you guys could see if there's any opponents and at least we've gone through the hearing. Because we probably have to open and close the hearing.
Okay,
So we might want to just read through what we would typically do.
this is a quasi judicial hearing. Does any commission member believe he or she has a conflict of interest or personal bias? Has any commission member had any ex parte contacts or made a site visit?
I have made a site visit.
Site visit.
I've been here a couple times.
Does it matter that I live 5 feet from here? I feel like. Personal bias, I don't.
So, the staff report briefly.
We're looking to do a new city hall and the plans are before you and we're hoping that you would in that project.
Thank you. That was brief. Presentation by any other proponents? Well, pardon me, is there a presentation by the applicant?
Yes, there is a presentation by the applicant. And again, I will be brief as well, but I do appreciate the opportunity to share our design with you and discuss our decision.
I think they have the material. So at this point in time, if anyone has any questions, it might be worthwhile accepting questions.
I'm more than happy to accept any questions as well.
I just had a couple of questions going through the plans. What's the garage for?
It is for storage, so primarily that would be storage for HRAP, Haystack Rock Appreciation Program items and other city hall needs, but primarily that will be items that go down to the beach with HRAP.
Great, very word. Okay. And then the landscaping report, there's a very brief arborist report from Treescapes Northwest. Which identifies moving a whole bunch of trees. And I don't see anything about replanting trees anywhere.
It would be cool if this would be just always when they're doing city stuff, I mean, replanted with native plants. That would be great.
Well, Jeff Gerhardt, who's the city arborist, has worked real closely with the consultants on this, so he's been
Yeah.
real heavily involved.
Cool if it was just like.
And he's on call.
Yes, I'm here, Jeff Gerhardt, city arborist.
We also have online for questions, Joyce Jackson, he's our landscape architect. And I've pulled up the landscape plan larger if that's helpful. We are replacing the trees more than 1-to-1 that we will be removing.
I'm more
One
concerned
comment,
the front of the building and all the cement that I see in that plaza. I guess is what, yeah. Questions or just concerns are in the design is that it's just too much cement in the entrance there and, you know, maybe the schematic doesn't have all the plantings that, are listed, shown, but it just seems like a lot of hardscape and not really inviting and should be softened up a little bit. And then also the lettering on the building. I look at the sign that's on right now and that looks Cannon Beach to me. I don't know what would happen to that sign, but I guess I just would hope that the design doesn't look like it could be put into Hillsborough or Beaverton and fit right in, you know, I guess I want to see something that looks a little more salty for Cannon Beach.
Just to clarify, are the comments specific to the building signage,
Well, just the lettering on there, I mean, that to me just looks very, and I know there's a counselor that doesn't know urbanized, but to me that just looks urbanized. From what our sign ordinance. And then I'm not quite sure what the plaza, the plaza would be used for, you know, I think it said art exhibits, but not quite clear what people are gonna do in front of City Hall in the plaza. Maybe there's some more decorative cement that can be used.
It's a little bit like the circle at the school.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Are we trying to decide if we want to make the motion to approve with conditions? Or are we actually going through this
I
process?
think it's just discussion right now.
Okay.
So where are we just, what are we just?
Yeah, like-
Landscape or what, site plan or architecture?
Landscape.
Landscape.
Was the trees, somebody talked about the trees. So I thought that got us into the landscape.
I just feel like we were kind of agreeing that we were like taking a back seat because the city council's already worked on this so much, so. Not saying we don't have jurisdiction, but saying you guys, this is your project. We'd like to be advisory. That's what,
We just withdrew that motion to do that.
yeah, but that was his saying we withdrew jurisdiction and objection. And then now we can say like, oh, we approve because of the point of that. We don't feel like, but we're going against,
I think he's wrong, but the attorney tells me we can't do it.
oh, we can't just, okay. I got confused there. Sorry.
I believe I could find an attorney that would disagree.
Okay. I misunderstood. Okay, I thought we were like, okay.
May I take the helm for a brief moment?
Yes.
I'll just kind of explain why we got these numbers that represent tree removals and these green circles on this map that represent replanting and, you know, some of the processes that got us to where we are. From my perspective as a city arborist, having this come through on my desk and getting to give my input, it's a really good time transitionally as an urban forest that exists around this current building to kind of make some changes and fast forward succession. So in the parking lot in the back and to the east, there are several mature alder trees that are a great native species. They're a pioneer species, but they are also more short-lived. And as they age, they tend to experience failures, limbs, whole trees. They start to have decay and weaknesses. So it's a really good time to start phasing out some of those trees. And not only is replanting a good idea when those come out, but there's already several established evergreens on the very far eastern side and south of that. There's a lot of understory plantings. There's native wax myrtles. There's non-native Monterey cypress trees. There's hemlock trees. There's young spruce trees. So as the overstory alders get removed, it naturally allows more light and resources for these understory trees. So those are already existing. And you know, we don't necessarily need to overplant those areas, but just by releasing them, it allows them to grow. One of the greatest places to replant is going to be on the southern side, directly south of the new building. There's a nice green space. That might allow maybe for some larger native trees, maybe a western red cedar, if not some native vine maple and more wax myrtle. We're going to retain 2 mature native trees on the far west side. In the circular patio, there is a multi-stem cedar tree, western red cedar, that we're going to accommodate and work around. And then there's a more mature short pine on the northwest corner. And that's going to segue really well. Going along the northern edge of the building, there's going to be replanting of shore pine that can be pruned and maintained to allow for line of sight for vehicular traffic, but also kind of an aesthetic to the building as well.
So this rendition, the patio looks bricked in. Is it gonna be bricked or is it just gonna be cement?
The plan is to use pavers there.
Pavers.
So they will be covered, colored pavers, not sidewalks.
Okay, all right.
I agree with Nina. I think there's a lot of concrete in the front and it's not.
Well, going by that front page, but then if they're gonna put pavers, colored pavers, that'll soften maybe, but I mean, it just looks like a skate park almost.
It looks like the principal's office.
Thank you, Jeff.
Certainly. Any questions on the trees?
You're removing flowering plum and flowering cherry, right?
Correct. Those exist along the north side of the building presently. They have multiple structural defects.
On my thing. Understand. I'll get it.
Or presentation by any other proponent? Presentation by any opponent? Other than Harvey.
He's not an opponent. He's
Staff response.
Oh, just looking for an approval.
Wish to make any additional statements?
I can address a few of the items that have been brought up. In terms of the plaza area, our consideration there was as a staff amenity on one hand, but also as an extension for community gathering as a whole, specifically in the summertime when the farmers market and that parking area becomes more activated. That can be an aside for people to gather there. It's oriented towards the south to take advantage of the sun and to take advantage of views along that western side of Haystack Rock. For the signage, I think my understanding is that we will need a signage permit for that. So in terms of the font that we're demonstrating in the renderings here, that is an item that we would be happy to work with you to adjust, to make it more representative of the community.
Well, I know council approved that, so I don't.
I'd like to say no, but
ruffle
he'll
any,
still go the other way.
And
If I didn't like it, then no, that's theirs.
I mean, I really don't like it. I mean,
Well,
it'll just be appealed and approved, so.
building mounted signs, so we don't really. Well,
It looks like a police station.
It's different material.
it doesn't say what it is, does it?
No.
I mean, to me, it looks like a police station, like City Hall sign, but I mean, it's for not, like.
Well, that's where I thought it would have been nice to just be an advisory so that we can say that, yes, whatever you like is fine, but we might just say, take another look at how much cement you've got in the plaza or what the Cannon Beach City Hall lettering really feels like.
I know, I love our sign now.
So,
Nita, that's in the minutes and that's completely appropriate. Right?
well, that's what I'm not sure. I mean, that's where
I think it's completely appropriate.
I wouldn't want to stop anything because the sign or the cement plaza, but I guess I would just add that as a consideration for further design.
And I'd love plantings to be all native on city property, in my opinion, but I mean, it's not hard to do.
So
Those are my things.
Couple of places it states that 1.5% of the project budget will be dedicated to solar energy generation. I don't see any generation in this design.
it's in the well of the roof or something.
They're anticipated to be roof mounted, so have a couple places, the roof plan. So in this slide that I've pulled up, the areas in green are the areas that are southern facing and would be appropriate for solar panel installation. We will be working with a solar panel consultant to understand exactly the extent of what that 1.5% of the budget will purchase and how much of this green area will be covered with solar panels. The other item related to solar panels in the plantings on the southern property line, we're currently showing vine maples and the wax myrtles. And the reason those are selected along the southern property line is because they tend to not get too big. And so they won't limit solar access to where we anticipate putting those solar panels. So this screen here is the study we did of the mature height of those trees and how they relate to the summer sun and
But there is no solar panels included in the current design.
so the current design level is that we have recently completed the design development, which means we're still working details, and the solar panels would be incorporated into the deep.
Okay. Yes, we will close the public hearing and move the consideration. So is there a motion to approve the site plan?
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? Favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. Or a motion to approve the architectural design.
Does that include the sign that I don't like? And I don't think anybody else likes here.
That can be
I think
accepted.
they say they probably would have come with a sign.
Okay, okay, so do we put a condition
No,
in?
not on a wall, not on a wall sign.
Okay.
So that would be done now,
Okay.
right? I'm just
Yeah,
kind of letting you know that,
Worn out, clear.
well, no, but I just wanted to make sure you guys knew that had the right,
Yeah, great.
We could make it a condition of approval that they do something different, but what would we want?
Or we just let the minutes reflect the design review board would like the font to be a little more Cannon Beach-y.
Agreed. Maybe Kit.
I want to know what they're gonna do with the old sign.
I know, I want that.
Put it in the council chambers somewhere.
Yeah, okay, so, they're asking, oh, yes, did somebody make a motion? Second? Oh, and a motion to approve the architectural design.
With no qualifications?
Besides, we all don't like the sign very much.
Well, it's,
I think we all don't.
it's lettering. I wouldn't even.
Yeah, the lettering. But
Ask a clarifying question about this.
Hearing's closed right now.
anybody want to second my cool motion?
I want to make it clear we're approving.
That's a good idea.
Without condition. That's what your motion
Yeah.
was in fact.
Yeah.
And I would second that.
No conditions, okay. Those in favor?
Yes.
Any opposed?
Abstain.
Okay. All right, their motion to approve the landscape design.
Site.
Site plan.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Kind of go together.
I don't want to make a motion to approve this.
Um,
Like it.
No.
I'll move to approve the landscape design as presented.
Is there a second?
What happens when nobody seconds it?
Fails.
Okay,
So was there a motion to deny the landscape design?
What do we want to see for landscaping? As a condition for approval or just as a deny and bring something back? And what are you looking for?
Well, what is it that we don't like?
I don't like that they're using Japanese, I think that they should use all Oregon native plants. I mean, it's great for the environment, encourages the butterfly trail. But
Just
So with more
for sake
native,
of argument, is to stick with our concept of what the minutes reflect, that we're unanimous. I would be willing to say, you know, there seemed to be a sense of the room that everyone thought if it would be possible to use native plants, that would be advisable. But I think the road we're walking down.
yeah, I mean, I agree. I agree with you.
Conditions on this.
Yeah,
So what,
So I have a motion on the floor. I did not hear a second.
which plants are?
you want to put conditions on your motion?
No, this is unconditional. However, we have let the record reflect that our
Yeah.
advice to the council would be to use native plantings if possible.
Or not?
I mean, honestly, they can talk about it, but I don't know how much it matters if we deny it.
Which plants did you object to?
Well, I mean, it's English lavender, that, I think I mean, sedge is native, but the sedge is not native. There's another, I think that rock rose is not native either.
what if we approve the landscape with a condition of using more native plants if possible? Is that,
I don't understand how, if possible.
well, I guess I don't want to box them into, you know, you have to use all native plants or else, you know,
Yeah.
so. I mean, and I'm not sure that I want to get into the
Yeah, I
dynamics of,
Yeah,
you know, well, what makes it a native and what was introduced and how long before it's just.
I would
you know.
amend my motion to say that we approve the landscape plan.
With a recommendation?
With the recommendation to use native plants as much as possible. Landscape.
I can get behind that motion.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second it.
That sounds good. Discussion. Those in favor,
Yes.
any opposed? You abstain?
I abstain.
Joe Harvey. I love it.
Right. So I guess we're done.
Thank you.
Is there a motion for the chair to sign a
Motion for you to sign, the chair to sign. Yeah.
Second.
Those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Okay,
Thank you. That was fun and,
anything for good of the
Okay.
Thank you, everybody. Thank
Oh, there's no, you don't have to,
no idea.
I thought you had to do something.
No, it's a good idea.
Oh.
It's a good idea.
We'll try again sometime.
You got a date?
Good idea.
Do adjourn?
or adjourned.
All right.
Well.
My
Right.
gosh, okay, well, that was interesting.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.